Okay, I don't really have a script for this, so I'm just gonna sort of wing this, because this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, like ever since Deltarune first came out and everyone was sort of going around it for the first time, sharing like fanon ideas and headcanon voices and whatnot, and I've just been thinking, like, there is not one voice that the community has fully agreed upon for Rouxls Kaard. Like, for most characters, there's at least, like, a sort of, cloud, like, circle area that you can, like, point to of, like, oh yeah, Papyrus, he's got, the nasaliness and rolls the R's, like, a little bit of, like, a tiny bit of an English accent, like, you know, a higher up voice such as that. If you were able to, like, ask anyone, like, any character from the games, like, hey, what's the sort of community agreed upon, like, voice for this guy, you'd probably be able to give at least a good or alright explanation behind it. But with Rouxls, I'm still seeing different interpretations and different, like, kinds of voices and directorial choices and whatnot. Every time I see a video with Rouxls, like, there's always something different every other time. And I've just been thinking, like, I wanted to ask you guys, I want to, like, compile a good amount of the different voices here and ask you guys, like, oh, what is your preferred choice? Because, like, I am genuinely curious about this, because I have my own preferences and whatnot, and we'll get into that later, but, like, I want to see if there's, like, a lean towards one more than the others, and, like, and Rouxls as a character in the fandom very much fascinates me with how, like, how many different interpretations there still are, you know? Because, like, by now, we even have pretty much homogenized ideas for everyone's voices outside of, like, Rouxls and Spamton, pretty much. Those are the only characters that I'm seeing, like, different choices for that, like, really differentiate themselves from each other and branch out from each other every day. And Rouxls has been around here for 2 years more than Spamton. So, yeah, I just thought I'd ask you guys what's going on with that and, like, what you think about this. So, yeah. Here's my takes on all the different Rouxls voices that we've seen and heard throughout the ages, and kind of trying to dissect them, so to speak, and I'm gonna give you guys the options of, like, hey, what do you think? Hey, well, what's your favorite? You know, I've been rambling for too long. This is an aimless video, but it's one that I've been thinking about for a while, and I finally forced myself to put this down on paper, so enjoy! So the worms have decided to crawl out and play. Thou'st fools! I am Rouxls Kaard, thou greatest adversary. Thou may have clawed us past all thou's otherest conundrums, but thous were created by utter weaklings. Now, prepare thyself for the strongest puzzle of thou's life. Toil, worms! Alright, so this first one is very much my sort of preferred Rouxls voice when it comes to anything. I'm not sure why, it just, I naturally gravitate towards it, mostly because it's really fun to voice, but also I think it really fits the character, you know, the nasally, sort of slimy feel of it all, very much adds to the almost posh sort of vibe he's got going on. It's as if someone's, like, very much trying their hardest to sound fancy, while also still leaning into that, like, fancy, again, sort of slimy vibe that Rouxls gives off. It's almost like Tim Curry-esque, which is why I've labeled it the Tim Curry voice half the time in my head. And I personally think that this voice, out of all of the following, is the most fitting of the ge-ha-ha-ha-ha laugh that Rouxls has. I think that the nasally, like, back of the throat sort of nature of it all very much leans into that and elevates it, and it fits the voice very well. yeah, on to the next one. Thou guys really think that was all I had? Wrong! It's time for you to feel my real power! Behold, my ultimate puzzle! Have at you! Face the true strongest puzzle, worms! This time, the difficulty art magnitudes grander! See thou in 100 years, thou feeble insects! Alright, so this voice is definitely the most popular out of the following voices, but again, that doesn't mean that I'd say it's the one that everyone's agreed upon, because again, different changes and different strokes for different folks, different interpretations I hear every day. But yeah, I'd say this one is definitely the most popular one. It's very much popularized, I'd say, by Retroversity. I'm not saying that this is my impression of Retroversity's voice, but I will say that it's the same cloud circle explanation that you'd normally give as the ones that Retroversity, L-Void, and all these others do. Very booming, bombastic, boisterous, the three Bs. It's a lot deeper than all the others, coming a lot more from the chest. And I'd say that also does fit. It adds a lot to the pompous nature that is Rouxls, and yeah, I'd say that it fits too. But yeah, words. Next one. Roll the clip. Welcome to my shop, you ungrateful worms. Ah, what is thine interest? I am the Duke of Puzzles, Rouxls Kaard. My hobbies include calligraphy, law-keeping, bug-keeping, cages, and long walks in the dungeon. Artist thou one of my admirers, worm? Alright, this one I can very much see people bringing up, hey, this is just the second one again, but higher. But no, I'd say this one is a lot more flamboyant and fruity in nature when it comes to inflections and how he says words. A lot higher, a lot airier, coming a lot more from the head and the head voice type area as opposed to the chest. Definitely hopping up into falsetto a lot more, and I think that also very much fits Rouxls as a character in terms of the flamboyant, showboaty nature that he gives off. This is my personal second favorite out of these voices, but again, they're all really close in terms of ranking, because mostly I just can't decide on one, because no one of these voices I think really fits Rouxls perfectly, but this one very much exudes the sort of charming, Disney prince-esque guy that he thinks he is. Our Lord King art a terrifying monarch. However, he is also brilliant, for he decided to appoint me as Duke of Puzzles, after pretty much everyone else was fired or placed inside a cage. Truly a benevolent ruler. Now this one's a lot rarer. It's not one that I see as much, but it has a lot more to dig into, I think. Whereas all these other voices are very much going for the sort of charming, suave, or at the very least, showboaty, over the top, posh, oh, I'm fantastic, that type of thing. This one is a lot more subdued, and I feel like it takes a lot more from the archetype of the evil turncoat advisor who jumps from side to side, or is where there's this kind and just king, and he's oh, I know what to do, I'm going to save the people, and then there's the evil advisor, a slimy dude sitting on the side, just oh no, you don't want to do that, let me corrupt your mind with my wicked words and whatnot. Grima Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings definitely comes to mind as a good example of that archetype, and I think that leaning into this archetype that Rouxls, some people could say Rouxls is definitely parodying, with his whole sort of jumping from side to side every moment. He's putting on this big front as if he is as great as he is, and he's a master manipulator, master strategist, puzzle master. So I think that, throwing on this voice that fits that sort of archetype a lot more. That's a very interesting take. I don't see it fitting as much as the others due to it missing that showboaty suaveness and that, you know, very much flamboyant nature, just like, hey, I'm here, look at me, that Rouxls has. But I still think it's a very interesting take that deserved its own spot here, because I have seen it a few times. Alright, now for this next one. This is the final one, and I need to warn you guys right now. I think I like most of these other voices, if not all of them, a lot more than this upcoming one. But this upcoming one is the canon Rouxls Kaard's voice. So, like it or not, this is the one that, like, everyone should point to saying, like, oh yeah, that's what he sounds like. But don't worry, like, people don't sound like Flowey when he says that that's a wonderful idea line. People don't sound like Metaton when they do the oh yes line. But, like, the sort of headcanon voices for them definitely aren't stemmed from these voice lines. However, those are still those canon voices. So here is the canon Rouxls voice. Enjoy, I guess.
It seems if the game hath been overed. What? House doth you have more houses? Cut the battle! So thou hast triumphed! Not! That plump duck art not but the appetizement! Watch your growing and huge destruction! Behold, worms, the real power of Rouxls Kaard! God! Damn it!
Okay, no, don't leave yet. I know that this sounds like Caldwell Tanner doing his best posh Marvin the Martian impression, but I am serious when I tell you that this is the canon Rouxls voice, or the closest thing we have to any idea of what Toby wants this guy to sound like. For those of you that don't know, when Chapter 2 came out, there were these unused sort of text tones for Rouxls that were found in the game's files. Text tones being those noises that the sort of text box makes when the text goes across. You know, the most famous one, of course, being... But here is what those Rouxls voice lines sound like. Now, if this were something like Papyrus or, like, Alphys, and we use that as a sort of jumping off point of like, oh, this is what they're supposed to sound like, I'd understand that that's a big stretch to make. But this is very much like articulated voice of some kind, and this is what it sounds like. So like it or not, this is the canon Rouxls voice, and we all need to accept that. If you want me to do this again with other characters, I don't think there's as much of disposition and a wide range as there is with Rouxls outside of maybe Spamton. But if you want me to do this with other characters, you know, like Sans, Asgore, Azrael, Rouxls, Papyrus is very much one that I think I can work with. All of those, I think, also have a lot of potential to show off the different ideas that the community has in terms of their voice. So, yeah, if there are any more of these you want to see, let me know, and I'll definitely consider it. Thanks for watching. See ya!